Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We're in a park near where we live. Do you remember the name of it?
No.
Something King. It's not Martin Luther. Anyway, some King Park in Bitesize in Brooklyn. And it's a bit of a sunny day. We just got back off of a 7-day yatra with the devotees from the UK. Shout out to any of those devotees who might be watching. Sri Devi Gopi.
Yeah. That's it. Adoria Garangi. See, we met her.
Oh, yeah. So shout out to, anyway, devotees who were on that trip. It was an amazing time. We were in Vrindavan, Gitanagari, New Jersey, and then of course they were in New York. So anyway, we're here back in New York. Sunny day. It rained the whole time they were here, and now it's back to being sunny. So we're going to read. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam.
Canto 4, Chapter 24, Text 71. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. My dear princes, in the form of a prayer I have delineated the yoga system of chanting the holy name. All of you should take this important stotra within your minds and promise to keep it in order to become great sages. By acting silently like a great sage and by giving attention and reverence, you should practice this method. Purport. In the Hatha Yoga system, one has to practice bodily exercises, dhyana, dharana, asana, meditation, etc. One also has to sit in one place in a particular posture, then concentrate his gaze on the tip of the nose. There are so many rules and regulations for the Hatha Yoga system that it is practically impossible to perform it in this age. The alternative system of Bhakti Yoga is very easy, not only in this age but in others as well. For this yoga system was advocated long ago by Lord Shiva when he advised the princes, the sons of Maharaj Prachina Vahisat. The Bhakti Yoga system is not newly introduced, for even 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna recommended this Bhakti Yoga as the topmost yoga. As Krishna tells Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita 6.47, Yogi nam api sarvesham madhku gatenanta atmana shadavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mata. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. Yeah, interesting. Just to put it into historical reference, that this system is so old that, as Prabhupada says, Lord Shiva was advising these princes, which is like hundreds of thousands of years ago, I would have thought, in terms of yugas. It's not a new thing, as people like now, it's popular to do these different types of yogas. It's not a new thing.
Okay. So continuing reading. The topmost yogi is he who constantly thinks of Krishna within himself and chants the glories of the Lord. In other words, the system of Bhakti Yoga has been existing from time immemorial and is now continuing in this Krishna consciousness movement. We'll just go ahead and finish quite short, right?
Yeah.
So that was the end of one paragraph, but that's very powerful, as you were just saying, so it's not something new. It's been existing since time immemorial, and now because of Srila Prabhupada, and the Hare Krishna movement, ISKCON, is carrying on. There you go. The word Muni Brat is significant in this regard because those who are interested in advancing in spiritual life must be silent. Silence means talking only of Krishna Katha. This is the silence of Maharaj Ambarish. Savai Mana Krishna Padada Vindayor Vichamshi Vaikuntha Varnane. King Ambarish always fixed his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord, and he talked of him only. Bhagavatam 9.4.19. We should also take this opportunity in life to become as good as a great saint, simply by not talking unnecessarily with unwanted persons. We should either talk of Krishna or chant Hare Krishna undeviatingly. This is called Muni Vrat. The intelligence must be very sharp, samahita diyaha, and should always be acting in Krishna consciousness. The words etad abhyasatadritaha indicate that if one takes these instructions from the spiritual master with great reverence, adrita, and practices them accordingly, he will find this Bhakti Yoga process to be very, very easy. It says very, very easy. Interesting, because often Prabhupada says it might not be an easy process, but it is a certain process. The example of Ambarish and this principle of only really discussing Krishna consciousness. Although we hear it time and time again, and in one sense it sounds like quite a simple thing, it's not really that simple, to be perfectly honest. Even people get bored of, okay, so I've done my Krishna conscious bit, now I have to do something else. I've done my Hare Krishna thing, which is why you get people who just go to church on a Sunday or to the temple on a Sunday or come for Janmashtami, because spiritual life, religious life can come across to some as boring. Like we think people are out here playing sports, people are out here riding bikes, walking their dogs, smoking marijuana, sitting in the sun, listening to music. People are doing so many things to try to occupy themselves. But if we said, why don't you just read a book about God, talk about God, then they might not find it so interesting. So it certainly can come across for some people as a very difficult thing to do. To just always think about, talk about, engage in devotional service, hear the glories of the Lord. But as devotees, we try to do this, and we try to find some satisfaction along the way.
Text 72. This prayer was first spoken to us by Lord Brahma, the master of all creators. The creators, headed by Brigu, were instructed in these prayers because they wanted to create. Purport. Lord Brahma was created by Lord Vishnu, then Lord Brahma created Lord Shiva and other great sages, headed by Brigu Muni. These great sages included Brigu, Marichi, Atreya, Vashishta, and others. All these great sages were in charge of creating population. Since there were not very many living entities in the beginning, Vishnu entrusted Brahma with the business of creation, and Brahma in his turn created many hundreds and thousands of demigods and great sages to continue with the creation. At the same time, Lord Brahma cautioned all his sons and disciples by reciting the prayers now recited by Lord Shiva. The material creation means material engagement, but material engagements can be counteracted if we always remember our relationship with the Lord, as that relationship is described in these prayers recited by Lord Shiva. In this way, we can remain constantly in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, despite our engagement in the creation, we cannot be deviated from the path of Krishna consciousness. The Krishna conscious movement is especially meant for this purpose. In this material world, everyone is engaged in some particular occupational duty which is prescribed in the Varnashram Dharma. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and everyone are engaged in their occupational duty. But if one remembers his first duty, keeping in constant contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything will be successful. If one simply executes the rules and regulations of the Varnashram Dharma in the role of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, and keeps busy and does not remember one's eternal relationship with the Lord, one's business and activities as well as occupational duties will simply be a waste of time. This is confirmed in the first canto, Srimad Bhagavatam 128. Dharma svanushtita pumsam vishvakshena kathasuya not padaya yadiratim shrama eva he kevalam. The conclusion is that even if one is busy executing his occupational duty, his business in Krishna consciousness need not be hampered. He has simply to execute the devotional service of Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing, chanting and remembering. One need not abandon his occupational duty, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 46. Yata pravrite bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakamana tam abhyacharya siddhim vidanti manava. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, man can, in the performance of his own duty, attain perfection.
Yes, I'll finish one little paragraph left.
Thus, one can continue with his occupational duty, but if he worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Lord Shiva herein prescribes, he attains his perfection of life. Swanustis tasya dharmasya samside haritoshanam. Bhagavatam 1-2-13. We should continue executing our occupational duties, but if we try to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by our duties, then our lives will be perfected. Yeah, it reminds me of what we were reading at the weekend with devotees from the retreat. Bhakti Trakhetu, and remaining fixed on the goal and just whatever circumstances or situation we find ourselves in, because it's a fact that every moment some upset or disruption is there. We just had upset and disruption before we put this camera on, to be honest with you. And you can have someone go and sit on the bus, you get, and something happens, you're at work, at home, amongst devotees. Sometimes it's even worse amongst devotees. So the point is, there's always upset and disruption. So yeah, it's really important to just kind of like focus on what is your goal spiritually, even materially. So and just in one sense, don't mind other people's business, mind your own. You just realize some people might have health goals, some people might have study goals, and obviously spiritually you have goals or should have goals, and just don't bother about the rest, because it's just unnecessary distraction and noise. That's what I was getting from this purport, just to remain focused on the goal.
Interesting, yeah. Shrama eva hi kevalam. So Prabhupada 1-2-8, and then Shrama eva hi kevalam. That if one doesn't, ultimately, I think Shrama eva hi kevalam means basically that it's a useless waste of time. And then at the end it says we should continue executing our occupational duties, but if we try to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by our duties, then our lives will be perfected. I think that's really, really powerful. But then the big question is, well, what is my occupational duty? That's the big question. Our occupational duty. Just before this, I I got a call from someone who left a message and said they were happy I was doing the traveling with devotees and speaking and engaging in that way, and they were saying that they think that that's my dharma, that's my natural dharma, to just be with the devotees and be, speaking and sharing and guiding and, like that. And I was thinking, is it? Maybe it is. Is it? I'd like to think it is, but do we always do these things? And whatever our dharma, our occupational duty is, but if we try, and we were mentioning it the weekend, right? Or in the week, this point of just trying. Prabhupada says it again and again and again and again. If we just try to please Krishna, if we just try to approach a spiritual master, if we just try to learn the truth, if we just try. So it's not that necessarily we can determine whether something will be successful, but success is in the trying, so like that. Okay, so maybe we conclude there. I think we must be getting close to the end of this chapter. Let's see. Still got quite a ways to go. It's a long chapter. Lord Shiva's instructions. Okay, thank you all very much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.